Hi kids, it's Bunny with another Junka journal, and this time it is a Wildflowers journal, and as you can see it is hardback, chipboard, with a pretty flower fabric covering and some lace on the bottom and a silk sash to keep it closed. And let's see if we can get this centered on the camera. How's that look? That look good? Okay, I think I need my glasses actually. Okay, inside the cover we have a lace pocket with a journaling card, two journaling cards. Journaling cards are blank on the back so you can write on them. There's also a tag. Tags are also blank on the back so you can write on them. And there's a little note for whoever buys the journal telling them some little tips what to do with the journal if they're not familiar with such a thing. And the pretty wildflower graphics throughout the journal are by Len Arte Studio on Etsy. It's L-E-N-A-R-T-E. Not sure how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounced it. And in this first pocket in here, we have a journaling card, excuse me, and a vintage photograph of some girls leaning on a banister. I'm not sure what year it is. And here is some vintage ephemera, 1919, a little letter from William R. Warner and Company to one of their customers. Here's some vintage sheet music, The Stumbling Fairies. We have a little stumbling fairy down there in the corner. Whenever you have wildflowers, you always have fairies. It's just some vintage notebook paper, and this is from, and I knew I wouldn't remember her name. Okay, it's a naturalist and artist, and I can't think of her name, but I'll remember it later. And it's a page from one of her beautiful books about the garden. Here's a little fabric ruffle, and page from vintage book. This page from Vintage Creole Cookbook. And in this pocket we have a tag which has a little tag, a little journaling card on the back in its own little pocket. And here's a vintage envelope, airmail envelope, with, it's from New York to Arlington, Virginia, and I'm not sure of the date, but it has a ton of vintage postage stamps on it. Beautiful stamps. Here is a page from a 1929 high school yearbook, complete with autographs. This is a page from Vintage Magazine. I believe it's 1930s. I should have refreshed my memory before I turned on the camera, huh? And more of the beautiful graphics from Len Art Studio. Here's a pretty journaling card and a vintage playing card. And here's a vintage postcard showing western North Carolina mountains. Some beautiful white rhododendron flowers. And here I use some texture paste and stencil to make a little raised stencil graphic there. And here's another journaling card and a tag and another vintage photograph. Excuse me. Yes, just about everything in here is vintage. Edith something. It's coming to me. It'll come to me. Here's a giant pocket. It's got little pressed flowers on it. And in this big pocket there is a cabinet photo, this distinguished gentleman, and a small journal, miniature journal for you to write in. A little notebook. More vintage book pages, journaling card, and a tag, and some more vintage ephemera from the American Oil Company, a blank receipt, probably from the 20s. More from the vintage magazine. There's some more vintage sheet music, When They Ask About You, and they will ask about you. A journaling card, a vintage ticket to Dover Theater, and this is a page out of a vintage S&H green stamp booklet. Probably the 50s or 60s. This is vintage wallpaper. More Creole cookbook and a little stamping. Edith. What is her name? I'll think of it. And here's a coffee dyed bag with a bingo card in it. And in this little coffee dyed bag we have a pretty journaling card and a photograph of someone and their baby. Very cute. And more fabric, more wallpaper. Here's a part of a 1958 calendar with journaling card and a tag and another vintage playing card. Some vintage stamps down here. More vintage sheet music. And here we have another pretty little girl and a skinnier journaling card. And here's a pretty little girl who has a pretty journaling card and a tag which has a pocket on the back with a little journaling card in it, and a vintage photograph of a boy and a teeny little dog. It's so cute. Cute little puppy. More of the yearbook. There's little clusters and things throughout that you can notice as you flip through. More journaling cards. And this is vintage ephemera page from a very old Singer sewing machine manual. Probably turn of the past century, or the 20s. Holton? Edith Holton? Is that her name? Well, anyway, my mind is going. Here is a vintage postcard showing Natural Bridge in Virginia. And a tag. And another miniature notebook. This one's smaller. Little teeny tiny journaling cards in it. Hope this doesn't run out before I'm finished. We'll just sail right along. You can see all the pretty things we pass along the way. Here is a bit of a sari fabric with pretty embroidery on it from India. Another vintage photograph. And pretty lace on the edges of some of these pages. More vintage music, sheet music. There's another vintage photograph. Plus vintage receipt. This is dated 1919. Another paper bag with journaling cards. Flowers of the cornfield and flowers of the seaside. There's a little bee, and I made his little wings gold. So cute. Another little bag. This just has a journaling card in it. And here's another pocket with a journaling card and a vintage photograph. And a tag. Some more fabric. More wallpaper. And that's the photo that's on the front. And here's another vintage envelope with the vintage postage on it. This one's from Germany. Excuse me, Germany. And inside the back cover we have some journaling cards and a tag. And that is the Wildflowers journal. And I hope you'll visit my shop and learn more about it. And until next time, bye-bye.